I think the theme is pretty obvious now.
Hey guys, the Gaming Knight here, and with the completion of my top 20 games I want to play, I decided to do another countdown. This one can be seen as similar to the Fiery Joker and Rebel Luigi's top 10 bromances, but it's got a bit of an element of the Green Scorpion's top 10 love stories. I'm doing the top 5 friendship arcs in gaming. Yeah, I would have done the full 10, but finding any more than 5 that were actually compelling that followed the criteria I set was hard. And they're all male. Tumblr's gonna kill me. Rules are simple. If there's a chance that romance is possible, it won't count. So Sora and Kairi or Neku Sakuraba and Shiki Misaki won't be on here. 2. Only entries from games I played, 1 per franchise. At the end of the game, the involved parties have to still be friends or at least consider friends. Not alive, just friends. It has to originate from the game. If there's a TV show, that's fine, but you have to hear about it from the game first. The story has to be over by the end of the series. I'll be going over the whole story of the game, so here's your spoiler warning. And with all that said, let's get our game on. Number 5 is, well, number 5 because it's from the Sonic series. Given the rules, Tails, Knuckles, and even Amy are out of the question, as their story arc as Sonic's friends are still going on. But there are games where Sonic makes friends and goes on with his life without them. Sonic and the Secret Ring, Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic Colors for crying out loud! But the most powerful one I could find was from Sonic Unleashed.
Yes, despite popular opinion, Sonic Unleashed did something right in spades.
But let's just stick with the friendship between Sonic and Chip. Sonic first meets Chip after Eggman turns him into the Werehog with the power of Dark Gaia and sends him falling through the atmosphere. Chip is where Sonic lands, and because of this, Sonic thinks that he's the one responsible for Chip's amnesia. Unlike other games in the Sonic series, you have all the Chaos Emeralds to begin with, and the adventure is based on returning power to them. And Chip is there to help Sonic do just that. Slowly but surely, with the power to each emerald, Chip's memory returns to him, until eventually he decides to investigate a mural in the 6th Temple of Gaia, which pulls him in and restores his memory to full. It turns out that Chip is the foil to Dark Gaia, otherwise known as Light Gaia.
No, seriously, that's what the game calls it.
And decides to leave Sonic behind to finish the job himself, saying that Sonic has no reason to continue. But Sonic doesn't need a reason to want to help a friend. His words, not mine. At the end of the game, Chip uses his power to call the Gaia Colossus to fight Dark Gaia on even terms. Not until Dark Gaia goes into perfect form and Super Sonic has to help. At least help in the HD version, which I didn't play, and basically fight alone on the Wii version. The end to this story is sad because Sonic runs out of energy after being perfect Dark Gaia, and Chip sends Sonic to the surface, staying behind to continue the cycle, but leaving Sonic the gem that was around his neck to remember him by. What's really sad is, Chip will always be on Mobius, coming back to save it time and time again, but Sonic won't be there the next time this catastrophe happens. That is a powerful friendship right there. This one's gonna be a little tricky to tell because I haven't beaten the trilogy or a single game they're in. So I'll tell you the development arc in the first game. That's where the most development is, anyway. That said, I had a lot to work with in terms of the Mega Man franchise. X and Zero, Vent and Gyro, hell, Land and Mega Man were contenders. But I went for the most prominent pairing from the most underrated sub-series spin-off. From Mega Man Star Force, we have Geo and Omegasys.
I refuse to call him Mega.
Let's take it from the top. Geo Stellar, a 5th grader at the beginning of the game, lost his father 3 years before the series to an accident aboard a space station set to forge a brother band with an alien race. Ever since, he's insisted on being homeschooled and eventually becoming an astronaut, so he could search for his father, Kelvin. The homeschool bit is because he's having trouble trusting people out of fear they might disappear, just like his father. Omegasys is a member of the alien race that Kelvin's space station, Peace, tried to forge the brother band with, known as the Femians, who turned traitor and came to Earth to warn the humans of the coming invasion. The first human that Omegasis comes into contact with is Geo, who he warns of the invasion and asks for help in stopping it, and in exchange, he would tell Geo what happened to Kelvin. At first, Geo is more than a little hesitant, and would rather not fight the F-aliens, but Omegasis keeps reminding him that he's the only one who knows what happened to dear old dad, so Geo keeps fighting. The development from trying to find out about his dad to trying to save the world at large is best shown after the defeats of Taurus Fire and Cygnus Wind, when Mega Man fights Lyra Note. After beating her, Geo tells Sonia, who is the host for the EM wave change, that while her mother is dead, he doesn't know what happened to his father, and says that she doesn't have to sing if she doesn't want to. And this is where Lyra turns traitor for fear of her own life, so Sonia volunteers to keep an eye on Lyra and keep... At the end of the chapter, Geo and Sonia form a brother band, Geo's first friendship that's actually recorded. Kinda like friending someone on Facebook or following someone on Twitter. Fun fact, Sonia was also considered for this list, but she's part of a love triangle with Geo and Luna Platts, who also gets a chance to wave change in the first game. But the most powerful moment in the first game is in the last chapter, after Geo beats Gemini Spark, who is a potential brother called Pat Springs. When Pat says he can't be Geo's brother after what his other self, Ray, did, it makes more sense in the game, trust me, Geo goes into spiraling depression, and Omegasis leaves to give Geo time to cool down. Unfortunately, it's around here that Cepheus, the king of FM, launches his attack on Earth, and without Mega Man or the Star Force, the best defense is in the form of the satellite admins, Leo Kingdom, Dragon Sky, Pegasus Magic, and also Lyra Note. They tell Geo to find Omegasis, who, along with Lyra Note, is being attacked by the reborn FMEN soldiers he defeated. Right when they're about to delete Omegasis, Geo jumps in the way and performs the EM wave change to take him down. After Geo finds Cepheus, he proceeds to head to the space station Peace, where Cepheus set up base for attack. During the Capcom-required boss rush, Geo stumbles into a room with a picture of him and his mom in it. It's there that Omegasis tells Geo that Kelvin and his crew were being held in their rooms as prisoners to be executed by Cepheus. But Kelvin begs Omegasis to send his crew into wave form and give them a chance to escape, knowing full well the chances of them making it home were slim. To this day, I still haven't beaten the final boss, Andromeda, but the biggest plot twist of all, which is the first of only 2 on the list I'll spare, is revealed just before the fight.
Ironically, that's the only spoiler I can say because I haven't beaten the game.
There are undoubtedly a lot of friendship arcs in the Tale series, which I can see as an underrated rival to Final Fantasy, if not an underrated superior. Unfortunately, I only played 2 games, of course, and I had half a mind to just put Lloyd Irving from Tales of Symphonia at the spot and have it represent every relationship he has. But then again, Lloyd didn't have the same development as Luke from Tales of the Abyss. Then another problem arose. All friends that Luke makes are more loyal to him for the entire game than a soldier to his commander. I eliminated Natalia, Tyr, and Annis because at some point they had romantic feelings for Luke for one reason or another. That left Jade and Guy, but Jade was always making snarky comments about things that Luke says, often saying things that Luke can't comprehend. So in the end, I went with Luke and Guy.
I'm sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. This was my first choice.
The player first meets Guy as a servant of House Fabra, who takes care of Luke as a guard because Luke lost his memory after being kidnapped by the enemy empire of Malkuth. They quickly became friends in this arrangement, even though Guy had been working for the Duke before the kidnapping incident. Then Tyr Grant invades the Fabra Manor, and a hyper-resonance occurs, where she and Luke are whisked to Malkuth, where Luke has to learn a lot of the world's outer workings the hard way. See, he was supposed to stay in the Fabra Manor until he turned 20, which he was doing pretty well until Tyr showed up. Guy comes into the battlefield after Luke killed his first human, and shows us exactly why Duke Fabra entrusted Luke's safety to him, knocking God General Legreta the Quick's phone tech guns out of her hands. That's right, this dude took his sword to a gunfight and won. It's only after Tyr gets hurt because of Luke's fear to kill, and Guy finishing off the Oracle Knight who hurt her, that Luke resolves to protect himself and his friends no matter what the cost. Fast forward to the point of the game where Annis and Natalia have joined the party, and Luke is finally free from the order to stay in the Fabra Manor till he's 20. And we finally see the face of the newest Guy General, Ash the Bloody. And it's Luke's. This is significant, bear with it. Fast forward again, and Luke, under the influence of his teacher, Van Grant, who happens to be Tyr's brother, tries to save the town of Exariuth, only to blow it up. Luke doesn't take to that very well. He denies the idea that it was his fault that Exariuth was destroyed, but his friends ignore everything he has to say, including Guy. That pushed him over the edge, and when they reach Julia's city, which is a city that sits on the outer core of the planet, Luke is adamant that he shouldn't go, because his friends don't want to be near him. And who should show up but Ash with the biggest plot twist imaginable.
Are all replica brains this defective? Replica? Master Van used the word replica too. You still haven't figured it out? Is this someone's idea of a joke? What? What the hell are you talking about? I'll tell you, Luke.
Ash, stop!
Why do you think you and I have the same face? How should I know? I'm a noble who was born in Batical. 7 years ago, I was kidnapped by a villain named Van. You can't mean... That's right. You're a second-rate copy of me. Mere replica.
What? What?
After this force lock scenario, Luke regains consciousness in Ash's head, and he follows Ash around for a small portion of the game, along with Jade, Guy, Ennis, and Natalia. At one point in this Ash chapter, Guy decides to leave the party. Natalia tries to tell him that it is his duty to Luke from Fabre's protection, who is, at this point, Ash. But no. Guy says he's going back to his friend, not his escortee. The most powerful part of this story happens when a cursed slot seal that was placed on Guy has to be removed. Luke is told to go on ahead because the seal only works if at any point the victim has any feelings of hate for the target. Luke goes to see Guy, making no resolve to know what he did to earn Guy's hate. But Guy tells Luke anyway, and it's kind of depressing.
Originally from Malkuth.
What? Really?
I was born in Hod. On my 5th birthday, my relatives gathered at the mansion. Just as the scorer started to read my score, the war began.
The Hod War. If I recall, it was Duke Fabre who attacked Hod.
Yes, Duke Fabre killed my family, my relatives, our servants, everyone. He destroyed everything I loved and laughed as he did it. So I set out to make him experience the same thing I did.
Yeah. This conversation, and Guy's response to Luke asking if Guy still hates him, replica or no, makes Guy my favorite Static Tales character so far, even threatening Jade when he brings up the possibility of sacrificing Luke to save Ash. A lot of the game after this point has nothing to do with this friendship story, so we skip to the end. Before we fight Van in an attempt to free the spirit of the 7th Phone Stone, Lorelei, Guy tells Luke that when all this is over, it doesn't matter what Luke had done in the past 7 years. He deserves to live until he dies. What Luke didn't tell the team was that when Luke, Ash, and hundreds of replicas of dead people neutralize the miasma, a lethal gas that can kill people in extreme doses, the phonons that make up his body are disappearing. Meaning he's not just going to die, he's going to cease to exist very soon, and it's too late for anyone to help him. After you beat Van with the Grand Phonic Hymn and an OP mystic art on Luke's part, it turns out that the group knew about it. Whether Jade told them or Mew did is up to interpretation. But the only two who let Luke know they knew were Jade, who found out he was lying to begin with, and Tyr, who you know Mew had to tell. And Guy honors Luke's memory, knowing how slim the chances of Luke surviving were, but he still waits near the site of Eldritch with Tyr and the others in case he does survive to keep the promise he made. The rest, I'll leave for you to see for yourself.
Ha! I just told you the entire plot of the game, and I say that. I am a complete hypocrite.
In Fire Emblem Awakening, you design an avatar character. If you don't change his or her name, it's Robin. I'm gonna go with male Robin, since female Robin actually gets a chance to marry Crom, the main character, which of course breaks the rules. At the beginning of the game, Robin has a dream about a fight which actually happens later in the game. In this dream, we are shown through Robin's eyes as he is forced to kill Crom, but by this point they're apparently friends enough that Crom can forgive him, but tells him to run away from the guy they're fighting from. He then wakes up to Crom and his sister looming over him, trying to decide how to help him. As it turns out, the only thing that Robin remembers, which for a short time includes his own name, is Crom. Crom finds it hard, their guard Frederick is skeptical, but Crom stands up for Robin. So they start to take him to the capital city of Elistal, and they run into a burning village. Being shepherds, that being a group of vigilantes working under the permission of the politics, Crom, Lissa, and Frederick rush to stop the attacking brigands, but Robin has nothing better to do than help. The biggest moment Crom shows humanity in is when Gangrel, the Mad King of Plagia, practically mocks his older sister Emran's sacrifice for peace, a choice that, in my experience, cost him his head. After the death of Gangrel, a new king takes over Plagia, who claims to be Robin's father.
Wrap your head around this. You've never met your father before.
Crom still finds it in himself to trust Robin, even saying that Robin is no man's son before he is himself. Fast forward a lot, and Valadar, Robin's father, tells the shepherds that Robin is the most compatible host for the god of destruction, the fell dragon Grima. And the scene plays out like it did in the beginning, to Valadar's satisfaction. Until it turns out that Robin remembered the whole dream and was able to stop Crom from actually dying. My favorite Robin moment in the game is actually optional, but I've gotta talk about it. At the end of the chapter, Valadar dies, and the future form of Robin takes the power of Grima that Robin of the present was supposed to. The next chapter, we learn that the only power Crom can use against Grima would only send Grima back into dormancy, only to awaken again in a few thousand years. But there is a way to kill him, though the chances of Grima committing suicide are non-existent. Wait, Robin's power is derived from Grima's, right? So he just has to deal the final blow and it'd be over, right? Yeah, but there's a catch, and Crom isn't willing to take the chance. If the invisible ties that Robin has to this world aren't strong, like strong enough to hold the Empire stay off the ground, he'll die too. At the end of the game, Robin has a choice of letting Crom deal the final blow or dealing it himself. And the action is much more powerful if he deals it himself. After the credits, a scene very similar to Robin meeting Crom for the first time happens, only this time, Crom welcomes Robin back and tells him it's over. Of course, this is if you have enough units survive. This game, though very popular and acclaimed, is still unappreciated for what it managed to do. That being, combine a story about zombies and a story about time travel, and make something not cliche but original out of it. The arc here, on the other hand, displays camaraderie and friendship that are essential in both storylines, that make it better than anything Doctor Who or The Walking Dead can do. I can't believe I went there. Before I go any further, I have something to say. Back when this list was going to be a top 10, I asked friends and family for suggestions for placeholders on this list. It didn't matter that I didn't play the games at the time. It just had to be good. However, none of their suggestions made it on. I would like to formally apologize to those who offered ideas for this list, as well as offer up their suggestions as a collective honorable mention. My high school friend offered up the idea for John Doe, the protagonist, and Dent from Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. The only friend I still have regular contact with offered up the idea of Banjo and Kazooie from the Banjo-Kazooie series, and I lost count of the offers that my cousin gave, at least that fit the criteria. However, none of their suggestions, and none of the ones that made the list thus far, could come close to touching this one. These two would forgive each other for anything, whether or not they'd forgive themselves. And it comes from my favorite game in the Professor Layton series so far, The Miracle Mask. A little backstory to explain this one. 18 years before the events of Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask, we play through flashbacks that Layton has of his best friend, Randall. In fact, at the time, Herschel wasn't even interested in archaeology. But he just thought that humoring Randall would be the best way to hear the end of those adventure ideas he kept having. Randall didn't come from the most humble of beginnings. His family was the richest in Herschel's hometown by the time he moved in. So there was one servant who was with the Ascot family since they were kids, later to become a young butler named Henry Ledore.
But wait, you say? Their relationship is professional, they should not be on this list?
Well, at the end of the game, we cut to a flashback of Henry being scolded for playing with one of Randall's toys. Of course, Randall walks in on this and has the maid scolding Henry threatened basically with unemployment because at that moment, he decided to give the toy to Henry. The friendship has been settled ever since, but it has been strong. In the last flashback chapter of the game, Herschel loses the strength needed to hold Randall up in the ruins where it was thought he died, and we see him fall to an apparent death. Herschel goes back with the weight of Randall's death heavy on his mind. And Randall's girlfriend, Angela, can't accept the idea that she won't see the man she loves ever again. Incidentally, Angela's a huge part in this friendship story arc. There was another rich kid in the same town, though he wasn't someone Angela thought kindly of. Her parents wanted her to marry him, and she would have given up hope that Randall was still alive if it weren't for Henry. Throughout the years after Randall fell, Henry's been looking for Randall, dead or alive, even using the treasure that Herschel found to pay for help, and eventually founding the city of Montedor, where the present chapters of the game take place. Henry was such a good friend of Randall's that he didn't want Angela to give up too, so he proposed a fake marriage until Randall came up. And after 18 years, he unfortunately does. The whole plot of Miracle Mask is finding the identity of the terrorist known as the Masked Gentleman, who has been periodically attacking Montedor, with a series of seemingly impossible illusions thought to be generated by the Mask of Chaos that he wears. After announcing his final miracle, the utter destruction of Montedor, the Masked Gentleman reveals himself, and you can guess who it is. Randall was apparently swept away by a river that was at the bottom of the cavern he fell into during the last flashback, washing up in a farming village with no memory of so much as his name. Gee, that's a real staple that hasn't been on the list before. Then one day he reads his mail and discovers a letter from an unknown author telling the events of his life and suggesting the plans for the Masked Gentleman. The letter specifically said that Henry betrayed Randall, and when the memories come back, he was furious that his family was almost broke and the girl he loved married his butler, to whom he showed nothing but compassion. So he goes along with the plan, not knowing that everything Henry did was for him. In the last cutscene before the credits, Randall is told the truth of everything that happened over the course of 18 years, and fact is separated from the lies of Descole, who was manipulating Randall from the start. In a scene not unlike Randall's fall 18 years ago happens again, with Herschel holding him by the hand. But Randall realizes that he had done so much to hurt his best friends that he gives up, telling Herschel to let go. He would have died this time too, if Henry didn't help Herschel pull him out of the hole. This is the mark of a true friend. You can do so much wrong to each other, thinking you were wronged, but when you learn that they treasure your friendship above all else the entire time, you are forgiven. True friendship is accepting that you have hurt each other, forgiving each other for hurting you. And this game's finale pulled at my heartstrings for some time to come. And you know what the amazing part is? I only beat Miracle Mask once, and all this stuck to me since. I didn't need to replay it to get it again, or watch another person's list to form my own opinion about it this time. I had it all along. I know this list was the most sexist one you could do, but any compelling friendships between two girls that were contenders for this list were optional. Fire Emblem. And I couldn't find them nearly as compelling as the ones that made the list, especially compared to number one. And if any such relationship arises in a video game, I'd look forward to it. I'm the Gaming Knight, and remember, while forgiveness is the hardest thing a person can do, in moderation, it's the true sign of the true magic of friendship.
Tactical nuke incoming!
I regret nothing!